Thank you very much, Neil. Let me just check whether this works. Oh, yeah, it does. Fantastic. Good. We're staying in South America. Seems like that's the hotspot of hydrological innovation these days. And I'm happy to give a very quick testimony of how we used open hardware to facilitate participatory monitoring, which is very much rooted in the IMIA network, which you might have seen in Koen's slides this morning, and is also very grateful for IHP to feature it as an example of participatory hydrological action in the 9th phase of IHP. And for those of you that are not familiar with the network, it started about 20 years ago as a quite informal grassroots community of practice with the joint aim of improving hydrological data of high Andean ecosystems, which historically has been really black spots on the hydrological map, in the sense that very little data and monitoring is going on, especially in those very high parts of the mountains. And as scientists and being aware that there's an urgent need to manage these systems, we teamed up with local universities, but also local communities, NGOs, and these days even industrial partners, to just exchange information, share experience, provide technical support to do long-term monitoring. That's probably what's quite different from most of the citizen science activities you've seen these days, in the sense that we focus on automatic monitoring over larger periods to allow us to look at aspects like trend analyses, identifying the impact of land use change and climate change on the hydrology. And that network was formalized in 2010, so actually celebrating our 15th anniversary, not yet as old as IHP itself, but quite a long time, and it's actually expanded into a network with more than 30 institutional partners, more than 50 river basins or catchments being monitored over the entire Andes, from Venezuela down to Bolivia and Chile. And that's been going great, despite the fact of being really grassroots and not supported by kind of central type of funding, but rather just everyone contributing with whatever resources they've got. But as we went along, obviously we came across some bottlenecks and bumps in the roads. And what I'll focus on today is to show a bit how we used open hardware to solve some of the issues we had with the classic off-the-shelf commercial hydrological monitoring equipment, which, as most of you that have done field work and bought these things, tend to be quite expensive. But there's also issues ranging from import taxes and bureaucracy, especially in places in the global south, but also simple things like coming with proprietary software, not well documented formats, not being available in the local language, all things that really were a severe bottleneck to support locally based monitoring. And that's when we came across, or decided to try the use of open hardware, and in particular we used the Arduino platform. And for those of you not familiar with open hardware, it's actually very similar to open software, in the sense that it doesn't really allow you to build your own chips. That's a bit too difficult to do. But it is an ecosystem, a toolbox of hardware components that are well documented in terms of their design, but also come with the software that allows you to program them for a particular purpose. Arduino itself is essentially a mini CPU that you can program to interact with sensors, interact with storage like SD cards, different types of telemetry, radios, etc. So basically a big box of Lego blocks with an entire ecosystem of software, sharing of manuals, documentation and all, that really makes it very easy to build specific tailored designs. And here you can see a design that we built, basically an electronic design that's derived from Arduino, and that allowed us to build a robust, tailored and low-cost water level sensor. We focused on water level because we combined that with V-notch weirs to measure discharge, but we also have designs, for example, with rain gauges, and you can actually quite easily connect other types of sensors. So it's certainly not focused to particularly that only variable. But the availability of that open hardware technology allowed us to really build that, make a system that was cheaper, more robust, and more tailored to the local environment. But But it came obviously also with challenges, particularly in terms of developing local capacity. It provides great opportunities, but obviously you need to have people that know how to program them, how to manage them, how to get the data. So it came with the challenge of building that local capacity. But at the same time, it's of course also a great opportunity, because once that capacity is available locally, that also means that maintaining those sensors, even repairing those sensors, or even expanding them and building new designs really works very well. And in that sense, a great opportunity for local open innovation. And indeed, we've seen local teams at universities, startup companies, picking up those designs, improving them, commercializing them, and really expanding and snowballing the approaches. And we're also very grateful to UNESCO to allow us to build an online course on open hardware and host it on their platform, which has been another great tool to support that capacity building. So much you can do with online technologies these days, and I think that's been a really great example to expand not just within EMEA, but also beyond to other places, including, for example, Africa. And to finish off, just a couple of other examples of what these tools have allowed us to do. One from Peru and Bolivia, where we worked with local communities to do community-based monitoring, but also integrate local knowledge, in particular to support or to provide an evidence base that can help with designing robust climate change adaptation strategies, particularly in places where glaciers are melting, changing downstream water availability. We need to think about catchment interventions that can offset some of those negative impacts. Not too much you can do about the glaciers melting apart from stopping climate change. So inevitably, you'll need to look at the larger hydrological system to think about interventions that can offset those negative impacts. Or on the left-hand side, an example of community-based flood early warning, which we did together with Practical Action, an NGO based in the UK, but very active in places like Peru and Nepal, which used our technology, and particularly a sensor based on LiDAR that we tested and refined to build low-cost community-based early warning systems in places where no government-driven statutory monitoring is available. These things are not impossible without open hardware, but I think the use of open hardware was really very, very powerful on driving down the cost, building local capacity, and building tailored and robust systems that are more likely to survive for a longer term. And I think that's all I've got time for, but certainly happy to answer any questions or discuss anything you'd like to know afterwards. Thank you.